So, hello and welcome to the Walk Off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, joined by our interim co-host Joel LaFlamme. Hey, call me on TikTok, and we are going to dive in to this weekend of baseball. So, buddy, I am in Seattle right now. Hopped on the plane yesterday, direct flight from Toronto to Seattle, and dude, it was loaded with Jays fans. And it was so funny. The one guy comes up to me and he's like, "You think they're going to win a game?" And I'm like, "I hope so." And he's like, "That's all we have now is hope that they take one of these games." And I was like, it was kind of eye-opening to realize like there's a flight full of Toronto Blue Jays fans, right? Going such a long way to see their team, but also knowing in their hearts, we got to try and find ways to enjoy this weekend that maybe aren't tying it to the wins and losses of this baseball team.
Yeah, two absolutely perennial offenses, the Mariners and the Blue Jays going at each other. It's, there's
This is
there's
what is so mind-blowing, dude. It's like the Mariners offense is horrible.
it's very similar to ours. It shows you how the role of the dice situationally in your division, just that team doesn't seem much better than ours. It just doesn't. I haven't seen it. I know they have a better record, but they're on a kind of slide recently. But I just look at that team and I go, that's a team that's equally dependent on their pitchers throwing five guys out who average a 3 ERA together, right? Like they have to put up record pitching performances.
They are the first team in AL West history to have the division in July, be in the lead of the division in July with a batting average below 220. A team batting average below 220. And I know
It's
batting average isn't the be all and end all, but
it needs to be
that's
more.
bad. Yeah.
It needs to be more the be all end. We need a decade of batting average being the be all end all again, to be completely honest. Because to have a team that's batting average is 220, uh, God, and to be competitive, it just goes to show you what this year is, where pitching is at. Um, I told you this point. I'm like, just the pitchers are allowed to have put nothing on the ball.
Yes.
Dial that pitching. We got to have that fastball velo drop to 92 again. They have
That
to have.
was that was one of your takes from last episode that I got numerous DMs about where they're like, I actually agree with Joel on this one. Like, absolutely correct. Because there were a few, man, I laughed so hard at some of the responses to the Vladdy cut his hair to show everyone else that he's ready to go, like that, I'm a big boy now. And everyone's like, that is a wild take that's why he cut his hair. It's just like,
I,
because of course there's the story that came out where like he sat down in that interview with Hazel May and he was like, it was the plan to cut it and commemorate 5 years in the league. And I guess his daughter's been on him to like cut his hair and stuff. But like, who knows why someone cuts their hair?
well,
There could be more than one reason.
this is a team with Danny Jansen on it. Danny Jansen would change his facial hair mid-game. He'd
Mid game,
strike out, go
shave a
shave
mustache
the
off if
mustache.
he's, yeah.
Yeah, like this is baseball here. Whatever is in your head, famous Bull Durham lines of if a guy thinks that he's winning because he's wearing women's underwear, or not because he's not winning, or because he's having
Yeah.
sex, or he is, and you should
Yeah.
know that. It's just like I really the game the game is so much head. It's 90. What's the Yogi Berra quote? It's
Yogi
50,
Berra, right? 50%
90%.
skill and 90% mental or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It really is so much. It's 90% mental. The other half is physical, right? Something
The
like
other half is physical. That's what
like
it is. Yes.
oh, that's a lot of number. That's a big percentage. And but yeah, no, it is. And for Vladdy, it just felt like it was maybe it's a tone, maybe it's a shift to seriousness. Maybe it's like, maybe it's this. I really think that conversations, no matter what Atkins is saying, look the opposite. Whatever he's saying, think the opposite. If we're not talking trades, they're talking trades. We know that. They've been exposed as literally saying, "Oh, we're literally we're in go mode." When reporters are like, "What are you talking about?" We've talked to other GMs. They say you're calling. Look, you're looking to deal people. What do you tell us one thing, you do another. So when they, whatever they say, I think that there's probably been a conversation where they've said to Vladdy, "We'll try to find you a good home, but we need to probably move on from you, right? We need to," and that's probably the first time extension talk he's probably heard with terrible numbers attached to it. Like he's heard like, "Oh, we'll give you 10 years, 200 million." He's had those talks, but it's
Mm-hmm.
never been the talk of we need to move on from you. And I feel
Well,
like
it's
maybe
funny.
the conversation happened and
Yeah.
like, I have to move on from this, right? Like used a
So
British.
we were going to talk Vladdy a little later in the show, but we might as well dive right in here now. Scotty Mitchell of TSN came out and tweeted, this is just from yesterday, and it's the first time Vladdy has really said anything like this. Now, he's never come out and been like, I don't want to be in Toronto. In fact, he always seems to really enjoy his time there and all that sort of thing. But he's quoted as saying, this is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on extension and trade deadline future with the Blue Jays. And he goes, man, I don't want to leave. I just don't want to leave. I want to stay here all my life, but this is business. I mean, it is business, right? He adds he doesn't think about the money. He's like, my time is going to come. I don't know if it's soon or not, but it's going to come. And I love that confidence from him. I mean, he's well aware of what he is somewhat valued
If
at on the open market, right? Which
yeah,
is
if
a
you
pretty hefty payday.
absolutely, if you there's if I was Vladdy's agent, I know I'm getting him at least 300 million on whatever his next contract is. With the way the market's going, with the way Soto's probably going to sign 500 plus. So there is a boatload of money waiting for him when it's time. Because if you look at the numbers for a 25-year-old, he's on a on his he is a four-time All-Star at 25. He's a
Yeah.
four-time All-Star. That doesn't come around. It doesn't. So to be able to advocate for that and to say, hey, this guy's a potential third baseman still. There's different potential for teams to look at him beyond first base, I still think. And yeah, it's just he does. You want to be a legacy player. You want to stay with that team that brought you up. There's players say there's no team like the first team you play for.
Yeah, there's a romance to it. Of course there is.
And there's this growth period, right? Like Vladdy is 25. He's 25. He has been a part of this organization since he was 15.
Yeah.
That's 10 years. That's 10 years of 25 years, right? Like that is
Man, the
40% of
international
his
free
life.
agent draft is so wild, eh? They're just like literally rolling the dice on children. It's insane to me. Like, I mean, worked out amazing, but yeah, like since he was 15, he's been a part of the Toronto Blue Jays.
40% of his existence has been with this club, right? And he's 25. And, by the time he retires, he sees, he would have spent more time. 25 years of his life would have been with this team if he stayed till he was 40, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
so he would have been more this team. That would have been more his family than anything. And that's kind of, I think he sits there and he goes, I want this. I see where my dad comes from. There's all that romantic stuff about it. And yeah,
It's
like
going
I
to be
said,
it's going to be interesting because I think he's going to want to be paid like a top three first baseman in baseball. And I know I looked into the numbers and he actually sits fourth right now. So, wanting top three money is very likely. I personally don't think he's a third baseman anymore. But I mean, the fact that he's showing enough there, it might help, go from that 4 to 5 in the league first baseman to getting paid like a top three, just having that little bit of extra versatility. Uh, yeah. So I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what the number is that gets it done, but I'm starting to think more and more that maybe like term is going to matter here, because I know I've talked a few times about a bridge type of deal where Vladdy, just after, especially last year being such a down year for him and it taking him a little bit of this season to get going. I mean, he's kicking butt now, but I kind of thought maybe like we could see something like a 3-year deal where that takes him to the age of 29 and gives him 3 years to kind of really build up that value and show that he still can thump, still has some power. But the more you look at it, the more I'm like, you know what? Like maybe he will want a 10-year mega deal. Like maybe he wants his money now and maybe he will be fine with 300 and I don't know what the AAV breaks down to, but
Well, yeah, like I think he looks at his peers when it comes to Tatis. Odo's going to sign a big one.
mhm.
Devers just signed a big one. And he kind of looks at that group and he's like, oh, they've all cashed that big check and been, they're all going to be locked down at a relatively young age to a team. And I think that that's what Vladdy's kind of talking about wanting to stay here. But are the Blue Jays a team to throw up? They were going to do it for Ohtani, which is really strange to me that they had competitive money for Ohtani, right? Competitive money to me seems like 600 million, right? It
Mhm.
sounded like the Dodgers went 100 million beyond where we were going to go. So if we had $600 million, if we had that much money, and we have not yet begun to defer
Yeah.
contract, we've yet to dive into that avenue of things.
And Joel, the Blue Jays do have a lot of money coming off the books after 2025, right? Like they are really looking at a clean slate here very shortly. I know that there's that George Springer contract that it is on the books until after 2026. But other than that, and Barrios, Gosman is after 2026. But like that's about it, dude.
I I still look at Vladdy as a prospect, right? Like I look at the years that players become baseball players. 28-year-old Vladdy to 33-year-old Vladdy to hell, if he's got his head on perfectly right, I feel I feel that 22-year-old season is there. The numbers on the exit velo and everything, it says it's there. It always says that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more him getting the proper support so he sees the pitches that he can drive. It's all of these things that we've talked about him having to press because there hasn't been a 4-hole hitter. That's been bad. The league adjusting to him, but just the idea that he hasn't been properly supported in these last few years, and I think that decrease in competitiveness can also take a little bit out of you. That can make you sloppier when you know that your team can't do it, and then you try to do a little bit extra, and that's not working, and you just see the decline year after year. That can take you out of an at bat. That can take you out of a defensive play, and you make a few more mistakes every 100 chances. You don't get on base a few more times, and you see that slide, and it all starts to compound.
With all of that said, though, man, and this is a really impressive little stat, Vladdy is one of 17 players to ever have 150 plus doubles, 140 plus home runs, and an OPS plus of 130 through his age 25 season. So those are his career numbers. He's one of 17 guys, and Juan Soto, Bryce Harper, and Mike Trout were the last three to do that.
I would
So,
assume there's a 90% Hall of Fame rate with that group, right?
it's
Like,
I guarantee you're probably correct. And I'm
like
not saying that Vladdy is on pace for a Hall of Fame career, but
oh, he is.
he's definitely in the realm where if he can show longevity and do this, he's
That's his
definitely in the talking.
that's his
Absolutely.
ultimate skill is his longevity, his the fact that he's playing first base, you look at everybody else and they've kind of dealt with injuries. Tatis has dealt with injuries. It's not Soto that much, but he has dealt with injuries.
It's a great
And
point, dude. He plays every day. There's something to be said for that, man. He's just in the lineup every day.
that gets you counting stats. At the end of the day, he plays to 40. You're looking at 1,800 RBIs if he's a 820 OPS guy the rest of the way, right? Like
And
that's even if he doesn't reach the peaks that he has peaked, the counting stats, first basemen who get put at first base and get to play that longevity out, that doesn't happen very often. And
he's got good genetics too. I mean, his dad played a long time, man. His dad put in a lot of years in this league, and I know that it's every human is different, but you know, there is those genetics, and having good genetics means something.
I really think the next 7 years is his prime.
I think
This
that's
is a
safe to say.
this is a four-time All-Star who is entering his prime next season. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Those are his years to win batting championships, to win home run crowns, to compete for triple crowns, to be a Miguel Cabrera type.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to me says that he can't be that. And that these inconsistent years from 20 to 25 are youthful elements, right? Like David Ortiz, another huge example. If that guy's career didn't really start till 29,
Mm-hmm.
first ballot Hall of Famer, multi-time, everything.
I mean, they weren't Hall of Famers, but fuck, Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion were pretty much the same thing. 28, 29 is when they really kind of like established themselves as superstars in this league.
Yeah, and if Batista had like, if he had flicked the switch and figured it out at 26, probably pretty close to a Hall of Famer. If
Yeah.
if Pittsburgh hadn't just floated him around as a fourth outfielder, telling him to slap balls to the opposite side, if they had realized who he was 3 years in advance, potential Hall of Famer. Edwin, how many home runs did Edwin end up having? Like, damn close to Hall of Fame level home run numbers. Wasn't he close to 500?
I'm pulling that up right now.
I believe he had like 7, 8 seasons of 30 plus bombs, all post 30.
So he had a career of 424 home runs
24.
and 1,832 hits. So not too shabby. A career wins above replacement of 35.5. And this is from a guy that, like you said, really, this is all coming post
30.
Post 30, at least post 28, you know?
Now, if Vladdy can put up Jose Bautista Edwin numbers from 30 to 40, he's got already 4 all-star appearances to 25. He'll probably get 4 more by the time he's 30. Like, he has got the counting stats that will go along with him getting to 40 that will put him in the 500 home run category, 1,800 RBIs, probably close to 3,000 hits. Very Miguel Cabrera like.
Yeah. I mean, that's the dream, buddy. I would love that so much. And the fact that Vladdy is stating outwardly and vocalizing that he wants to be a Blue Jay for his career. Not every guy does that. We don't hear that out of Bo Bichette. In fact, out of Bo Bichette, we heard, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I get traded. So, you know, I know we're really in the weeds when it comes to speculating here because nobody really knows except these guys what they're thinking. But you do get the perception like Vladdy is far more likely to stay because he is born in this country. He does have ties to Canada and to the Blue Jays. Like you said, he's been on this team since he was 15 years old, 40% of his life. So maybe there is something there. Whereas Bo Bichette seems far more interested in free agency. And again, this is all speculative. Who knows? I mean, and we speculate here, folks. We were talking about Vladdy cutting his hair to woo other teams. So, you know, it happens. But I'm hopeful, man. I'm hopeful that maybe something can get done with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We'll move on, but let's end on where your hope level hits. And I would love to hear from everyone on the grounds crew as well. Give it a percentage. What do you think the percentage chance that Vladdy stays past 2025? Let's not get into what that contract looks like or the term, but even if it's just a shorter 3-year deal to re-enter free agency around 28, 29, do you think that's possible? What's your percentage?
I think he's, I think sadly, like he has to be, if this front office stays around, it feels like he's dealt.
Wow.
It feels like he's dealt. It feels like there needs to be a shift in who the GM is. I think he needs to look at a different GM and have a different GM pose this contract offer. I think that will wipe the slate clean of any negative feelings over the last few years, and it needs to just come from, well, hey, look, we know we wasted a few years on team building and construction here, and we own that, but we got to own that in Atkins being gone, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if that's the case, you get a new GM to come in and pose a contract that Vladdy had not seen yet, because I believe that the offers were in the 200s. I believe the offers were very low ball. Not if they were anywhere close to what Tatis was offered, Lindor was offered, what Julio Rodriguez was offered, even though that's 220, but like anything in there, I think would have locked Vladdy up. I know he's a
Yeah.
legacy player, but everyone else did.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else did, right? So,
And even if he's not a legacy player, okay, like let's say he's just a very, very good player. The way free agency is working more and more with these young guys getting locked up long term is it's really affecting the quality of guys available at the top end, right? Like there used to be 3, 4, 5 big guys, like those sure shot free agents, and now it's getting to the point where it's like there's one a year. And if you're not the Los Angeles Dodgers or the New York Yankees, it's tough to win those battles. So a little proactiveness here on some of these. We're not even a small market, dude. Like we've got money. They've got the money to play the game the Atlanta Braves are playing, to play the game that some of these other organizations are playing, where they're getting in their teeth into these young stars of theirs and locking them up until they're 29, 30, right? But you got to jump on that soon because it's a risk reward thing for both the player and the team. And the Jays have just never played that game.
yeah, it's funny. Like I said, team construction, I think would really, I think Bo's going to have to go for Vladdy to stay, which is sad. Bo's going to have to go for them to, they're not going to offer both of them, right?
No.
To get one to stay, you have to pick one. Vladdy's got the highest upside. Bo has been the better player, right? Bo has outperformed Vladdy 4 out of 6 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's outperformed it. This year's an oddity. This is a very strange 162 games for Bo. So we're really low on him right now. And it seems like one to cut ties with, even though buying at a low may be smart. But with Vladdy, it's a situation where I just feel like it's going to have to come. An offer is going to have to come from someone else, a different GM, and a concept of a team that makes sense to him, right? Like I'm still, I still find it wild that Luis Arraez gets thrown around the league bicycle. Everybody gets a shot at the batting champ. They'll win 3 different championships on 3 different teams. Where a guy like that isn't getting the $300 million deal. That guy's not getting the $300 million deal, but do you know what that would look like in front of Vladdy? That guy who hits 330,
Oh,
always hits. And to know that's a cheap option that is relatively the same age, that gets that Latin kind of feel, like to be able to build it, I think it's going to require moves like that where he sees an old-fashioned team and players in the positions. He goes, oh, there's a 4-hole hitter. There's a guy in the 2-hole. That reminds me of baseball as opposed to I think that this OPS plays in this spot. Oh, we don't know how to construct a lineup at all. That needs to be swept clean, and he needs to have 2021 feels of this is a lineup that is going to. We don't have a fading leadoff hitter, even though Springer is hitting well in the last 10 days,
Yeah.
but the struggles of him for 2 years. We need a top
I
four.
mean, you're not alone, Joel. You're not alone. And I think it's pretty safe to say the majority of Blue Jays fans at this point want a new general manager, want a new voice at the helm here. And until that's the case, there's this real feeling, this sinking feeling of uncertainty. Are they going to get? I mean, this is the thing, dude. This team is really difficult to watch. I know I was watching right before I got on the plane yesterday. I was watching the last game of that Astros Jays series, and it was 3-3 when I got on the plane. And when the plane landed, of course, they lost 5-3. And I didn't see exactly how it happened. I watched the highlights afterwards. But par for the course, the bullpen is a dumpster fire right now, dude. I can't remember the bullpen being this bad since like 2021. Like I shouldn't be wishing and thinking things like, I wonder what Tyler Chatwood's doing right now. Like these are not good thoughts, my friend. And you start looking into it here. So this is from this is Chris Black. Okay. And he says, by ERA, this is easily the worst season in franchise history for a Blue Jays bullpen. Best season ever. They had, so this is ERA plus kind of thing where so 0 or 100 is average. Anything below is good, anything above. So best ever 2008, 68. That was the BJ Ryan years. Last season, they had an 87. So they were sitting pretty good. Good bullpen. Worst season ever done before 2024 was 1978 with a 112. This year, 121. 121. It is not good.
To think that your inception years when you're an expansion team was a better constructed bullpen.
Just
And this is the
wild.
highest
So,
payroll the team has ever had.
and I will
And
let you finish your thought here, Joel. But I will add on here while we're doggy piling on this bullpen. Blue Jays, where they rank amongst 30 MLB teams, 30th in wins above replacement. Their bullpen has accumulated a negative 0.9 WAR. That we're talking half a season here, Joel. This team is losing game after game because of this bullpen. FIP, that's ERA adjusted to fielding. They are 30th. They are the worst team in baseball when it comes to their bullpen FIP, 4.83. What's hilarious is their ERA is worse than this, but they are 29th here, so they're not dead last, 4.86. And then they're 26th in their K walk rate, which is 11.6.
So so many things to touch on. I adore Pete Walker, but the mystique is instantly vanish when you have that as a bullpen. You can do all the magic in the world with some starting pitching, but every single arm is your responsibility. You're not a starting pitching coach.
Yes.
Okay. So that is baffling to me. Those numbers are just ridiculous. The idea
what stands out too, Joel, is think about this. This bullpen isn't all that different from last year. Now, yes, obviously, the bullpen injuries have been a killer this year. I think Jordan Romano and Eric Swanson getting late starts to their spring, being delayed, starting the season. I mean, Eric Swanson's the mental stuff he's had to deal with this year, and his wheels just fell off. I mean, he's got an 11 ERA in AAA right now. Jordan Romano probably out for the season, probably needs to get Tommy John surgery. And honestly, what's really sad, man, is I hope we see that man in a Blue Jays uniform again, right? Like he's got one more year on his contract. We know how TJs go. Normally, fingers crossed they're 8 months, but dude, 18 months is not insane. It happens.
And
Uh,
there's no reason for him to rush back for a month just to feel good in a Blue Jays jersey one last time, right? Like they're not
yeah.
going to do that.
Tim
Okay, so
Meza, Tim Meza had a 1.53 ERA and a whip of one last year, dude. A whip
the
of one.
the ridiculousness of a bullpen and how a bullpen, these things, they vary so much from year to year. Okay, they
Relying
vary.
on consistency is a game in madness.
Yeah, it is. It is. Relievers are literally the inconsistent pitchers that were turned into relievers, and so they're literally the inconsistent ones of the group asked to be consistent. And I always look back to our inability to bring up arms. And like Ben Joyce, we spaced on Ben Joyce 4 times.
Mhm.
4 times Ben Joyce was available. And I point this out as a guy who throws 105. I don't care about anything else. He throws 105. Get it. In the first round, no. Okay. Second round, no. Third pick, no. Fourth pick, fuck it. It's 105,
Yeah.
right? And you see he's now incorporated a sinker that breaks this way. It's just ridiculous. And to think that that should be firing out of the bullpen, and I don't understand how as an organization you don't look at that arm. You have 4 times to grab it, and you're like, no, that's fine. And the fact that we put so much focus on defense, starting pitching, and bullpen, and any one of those things don't show up, it all falls apart. Whereas if you put your focus on offense, you don't really need those ones, any of those things that much. If you go out
Hmm.
there and score 8 damn runs, who gives a shit? Right? Like and that's what we can't do. That's the difference between this team and $120 million ago and 3 years ago when the bullpen was somehow, we were cursing it. It
Yeah.
was still
It was,
drastically better,
yeah.
and we had the thump to overcome anything.
Hmm.
And now the misallocation of funds, the inability to lock up players long term, the hey, we got a great bullpen, and then it falls apart, right? It's these guys are incredibly amazing one year, and then
Well,
ERAs in the 11.
it's such a dangerous game to play, pitching and defense, right? And I mean, look at the tightrope that the Seattle Mariners, the team that, we're facing off against this weekend, is doing right now. Like they're worried. You talk to Mariners fans, buddy, like Houston is right there now. Houston's 2 games out of the American League West Division, and no amount of good pitching is enough without being able to back it up a little bit with the stick, And I mean, the Jays managed to get lucky last year and do it without a cleanup hitter, do it without any real offensive threat. You can't, crossing your fingers that the bullpen is going to improve on last year when it was already one of the better bullpens that had been put together. And I mean, yeah, who saw Jordan Romano getting injured, Eric Swanson being in AAA, Chad Green not being able to stay on the field, Jimmy Garcia being an absolute stud, and then probably being overused. I mean, that's the truth with Jimmy, is that he was one of the only guys who was getting out. So, yeah, Big John went to him a lot. Thank the good Lord of baseball above for Trevor Richards. I never thought in a million years we would be in a situation where we're just like, oh, where would this be without Trevor Richards? But truly, where would this be without Trevor Richards, man? He was he's he's been making starts when they need him to. He comes in for 2 or 3 innings when they need him to. He's in high leverage when they need him to. Like, this is the guy that 2 years ago everyone was like DFA. And I
Mhm.
was on the fence on that too. Yeah. Like,
I remember. I remember we were
yeah.
there, and yeah, no, it's so strange because we've also got this amazing we've got this amazing player performance center that we spent all of this money on. We've spent all of this money on this facility, and this facility will make great baseball players, and it will make great baseball players even greater.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone will succeed. All this money that we spent on architecture and buildings, technology and apps and tablets and all of this stuff. And it's just like you need Bruce Bochy to come in and just burn it all. Just get rid of it, every bit of it, every single bit of it, because it seems to get too in your head and it hinders you and you're not yourself. Your batting stance becomes a carbon copy of what the league demands of you.
Mm-hmm.
Your delivery becomes the most efficient by mathematical blah blah blah. No, it's where's the art form? Where's the individuality? Where's I see more success in guys. Bryce Miller out of Seattle. I think
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're going to see him. I think he actually just pitched yesterday or the
Not
day.
he is not one of the guys that is pitching for the Mariners this weekend. No.
I saw him throw a 3-pitch fastball sequence of straight mechanics fastball, double pump the leg fastball, quick pitch fastball. Blew all 3 fastballs by the hitter,
Yeah.
and they were all different. And there was an art form to it, and I was like, that's not some laboratory. That's not, somebody says you got to get them off balance, and you can get them off balance with the same pitch.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to time your leg drop or your mechanics in one certain way. You got them. All you have to do is vary your time to home plate. That's not some machine. That's not some gizmo. That's not some slow motion camera. That's balance on the back leg, change your speeds to home plate. That fastball, the same pitch that you can throw consistently, can have 5 different looks to it.
Man, this weekend is going to be so interesting. I'm really curious to see. Number one, I'm curious, Joel, to see what this Canadian invasion looks like this season, right? Because this is a team that is 39 and 48. They're 8.5 out of a wild card spot. 8.5, Joel, out of a wild card spot. There are far fewer teams to wind up in dead last here, then there are to leapfrog into that final wild card spot. So is that going to affect how many Canadians come down? I'm really curious. And like I said, man, the flight here from Toronto was full of fans. So I know there's still going to be people from all over Canada. It's just a really fun place for everyone to go. And I love these Seattle trips. But will the Vancouverites come out like they normally do? Like this is not the most fun team to watch, dude. Like, it's just not. I love this team, and I know everyone who's. I've gotten messages recently, dude, where people are like, "I think I just like watching Blue Jays podcasts more than actually watching the team." Like, that's where we're at right now. Is baseball nerds are just like, well, it's so painful to watch this, but I still want to know everything that's going on. Like, I still need my drug. It's
You
just
still,
so bad right now.
when you break up with that girl, you still talk to all your friends in the friend group. Is she okay? How's
Yeah.
she doing? I can't talk
How's
to
she
her.
doing? Yeah.
Is she all right? Should I call her? I shouldn't. Okay, I'm just, and you're trying to stay away, but it's tough, and
Because
I my love for this team is always like, don't get me wrong, we won World Series when I was very young,
yeah.
right? So that got me hooked on the team. Since then, no championships and since my brain has become competent to the game,
Yeah.
none, right? Like no championships. So my allegiance to this team is 31, 32 years deep based off of a love affair of a child, you
Hmm.
know. And so I'm still here, right? Like it's going to take more than this to And I think that that's the case for a lot of fans that just want to go, that just love baseball, right?
Hmm.
Like this is where I think baseball fans are capable of taking in the game just as the game. Like win or lose, the experience of going out on a nice day with the family. This isn't the game that should break the bank on going to see, right? Like,
Hmm.
I want to go see a hockey game with the family. Oh, I have 3 kids. Oh,
Yeah.
shit. $380 later, we're up in the nosebleeds watching a hockey game. This is a situation where you decide day of.
Yeah.
There's seats. There's seats.
Yeah.
Let's go to the game. Oh, what's the cheap seat in the upper deck today? Oh, it's $11. Oh, $50 pays for the entire family. Let's go.
Yeah.
But they suck. The tickets are $3 cheaper.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of that. Let's just like, oh shit, there's a homer, right? You go and you
Yeah.
look for a nice double play. You go look for a nice pitching performance. The individual moments are what you seek out. And
You're nailing it, dude, because I know some of the people I was talking to on the plane ride, this is their mentality for this series. It's like, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna enjoy this game as a microcosm of the season, right? Like just blinders on and focus on just this, and maybe we get a win, and it could be a really fun game because you start focusing on the trajectory of this team, and it's a very disheartening exercise because right now we're in a really precarious spot where coming up to this all-star break, they face 3 against Seattle, 3 against San Francisco, 3 against the Diamondbacks. They're 9 games under 500. Like we're kind of
how many Blue
on
Jays are we going up against?
a lot
A
of
lot of Blue
former
Jays that
guys
are in
who,
like
yeah,
those teams are actually contending. I think every one of those teams
yeah.
are within like three, or Seattle's in it. They got the division right now, and the other two are within like 3, 4 games of the wild card. So it's like, oh, and and Simeon has got a World Series, and Lourdes, and
Yeah.
anyways. So at least we get to go see old friends who are doing well, right? At least we're not playing the Dodgers.
Yeah. Drop in the comments because I need all the help I can get. How do you folks still enjoy watching a Blue Jays baseball game? What are some tricks you do to just try and be in the moment and just enjoy your love of the game of baseball without tying too much to where this team is headed?
There's some things that like I hope to see in a 3 game series though, right? Like I think they miss Kikuchi. Kikuchi just pitched, so I
Hmm.
don't think Kikuchi pitches. Even though you're like, oh, him back in Seattle, maybe that would be a nice moment. I want to see
Yeah.
Spencer. I want to see Horowitz play. Like he's
Hmm.
really doing so well. I'm so impressed. I want to see a little bit of his success. It might be the last time that anybody on the West Coast sees Bo or Vladdy in a Jays uniform. So he might be playing just for a nice moment between either of those. A nice
Yeah.
double, a home run from Vladdy, just so you got that moment to. Anyone on the pitching staff goes out and throws a gem. There's all beautiful
And it's
baseball moments.
Gosman. It's Kevin
Right?
Gosman tonight, totally capable of throwing a gem. We got Yariel Rodriguez tomorrow, and buddy, like Rodriguez on Canada Day was unreal. 2 hits, 1 run, 7 innings. He was just lights out. I know we talked about the way he was mixing his pitches and just fearlessness of starting things off with a breaking ball. So we get to watch some Y Rod, and then it's going to be George Kirby versus Jose Barrios. That should be a fun little matchup. So again, yeah, like you said, the things you want to see in the weekend, keep your eyes out for. Again, drop your comments below here, folks. What are you looking for just to, savor baseball in the moment? And
Right, exactly. And great thing about a ball game is that it's, for half the year it's not there. And for 160 out of 100, 162 out of 180 days, it's there when you need it. It's there when
mhm.
you need it. And I don't always need it to win. I don't always need it to I gotta win today. Sometimes I just need it to listen to Buck and Dan tell me baseball stories. for 3 hours,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
I think for baseball fans, it almost becomes radio. It almost can it you can either be so in the moment on your team because you're loving everything that you're seeing, or your eyes come off
Yeah.
of it and you begin to hear it more instead of
Hmm.
watching. It's not something I want to watch right now. It doesn't mean I don't want to hear it. Doesn't mean I
Yes.
want to hear the conversations and just be surrounded in baseball, right? So
We're such nerds, buddy, but I love it. I feel the exact same way. I feel the exact same way. All right, let's wrap up here, man. I really appreciate having you on. You know it, and I look forward to the next time. Obviously, we'll break things down here. You're free on Monday? We'll do MLB Mondays.
sure.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, buddy. We will see you then. To the grounds crew, if you are in Seattle, drop a comment. Would love to see where you're coming from. Are you from Vancouver, from BC? Are you from further away? Because that's one of the more fun things about wandering around Seattle and everyone's in their Jays gear, and I get to be like, where are you from? All right, gang. Hopefully the Jays can get one, maybe two. That would be the dream. Cheers, everybody.